Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this episode of The Federal. My name is Naved Anjum, and today we have a very special guest, Mansoor Khan, the Bollywood director who has turned an author who, in fact, has been writing for a while. His last book came out in 2013. Um, it was called The Third Curve. Welcome to the show, Mr. Khan. It's wonderful to have you with us.
My pleasure.
Okay, so just by way of introduction, just a few lines. I'm sure those of us who uh, you know have been following Hindi cinema and those who have, uh, especially those born in the 90s, grew up in the 90s actually.
Mhm.
Um Mr. Khan directed four very successful Bollywood films. He basically directed that Qayamat Se Qayamat Tak, which was the launch pad of Aaamir Khan. Then he went on to make three more movies: Jo Jeeta Wahi Sikandar, Akele Hum Akele Tum, and Josh. All very popular, all very sort of uh, defining. They were in some sense defining films of the decade. Uh, Today will be focusing more on this new book by Mr. Khan, which has just come out. It's called One: The Story of the Ultimate Myth. It's a very short and slender book, but it's very powerful in its impact in the sense that what he explores in the book. There's a larger sort of inquiry into the civilization. And my first question to you, Mr. Khan, would be that it's a book that has been there with you, it has traveled with you. If you could take us to the genesis of this book and what sort of triggered, this quest to understand, in fact, critique culture and civilization.
Okay. So this has been a 23-year-long journey. So, in fact, in 97, my land was going to get acquired for an airport. So
Right.
from that came the questioning, what do you mean by acquisition? What do you mean by development? What do you mean by compensation? What do you mean by rehabilitation? तो वो एक moral level, environment level से शुरू हुआ. And actually, I didn't even know that anything about the environment. And I knew nothing about inequity, injustice. So as I was in the process of trying to defend my land, and it was not just my land, there were 14 villages, 30,000 fisher folk, farmers who, I mean, I have five houses. For them, it would be their only house and their only community. So in that journey, I went deeper and deeper and deeper. So it was not only about that, it was my awakening. And I first came across this questioning of science, what we call modern science. Then I found that, hey, because that was a hell of a shock. I was studying engineering. I thought everybody thinks that modern science is the absolute truth and logic is the absolute. So वहां से वो questioning शुरू हुई, and it branched off in many directions. I read many authors who most people wouldn't have heard of, but they made me understand that we have been conditioned to believe that humans are improving by becoming civilized, and that these primitive cultures are just backward cultures, and they don't know about anything about ABCs, C1 2 3 equations, ye wo, laws of gravity, and
Right.
and as I went deeper and I read a subject called primitivism, which actually is trying to make people aware that the primitive was correct. They were in sync with the earth. And then this whole world is facing multiple crises. You know, ecological, forest gone, river dried, water's problem, oceans acidified. ये 20 problems जो हैं वो civilization में लोग, civilization is a culture, and humans is a species. So actually we have caused it. When we say man has caused it, man has not caused it. Those 5,000 other cultures have not caused climate change. They are not denuding the forest. If you go to a tribal village, or if you go to a Native American village, or their village, the water is clean, the birds are there, the forests are fine, soil is great. So they don't have so many diseases, diabetes, ये सब सारी civil. So I have to make the distinction between culture and species. I found very important because you try it yourself, Naveen. You tried this evening, you ask your friends, hey, who do you think is destroying the planet? And 100 out of 100 you say, us. So you say, who's us? Humans. इस बड़ा झूठ को हो ही नहीं सकता है
जी,
इससे बड़ा आप समझे ना तो that is a
right.
core yeah so my core objective is to make you explain first of all it's not humans it is civilization क्योंकि जब तक आप ये नहीं समझेंगे कि कौन सा 10 भाई चोर है आप सही नहीं कर सकते first you have to deal हाँ you're a police inspector you're a detective or you're a thinker or a philosopher first of all you have to narrow it down and then you will care what is it about civilization that makes it behave so and yet it thinks oh we went to the moon we went this we went to the bottom how is that important
Yes.
we, yeah so that is why we are not getting any answers how to get out of this mess so the whole world is going in a loop in a loop in a loop because they are not questioning their perspective so my core book is reality what is reality and how do you perceive reality अगर आप
Absolutely.
रियलिटी को सिंबल्स में परसीव करेंगे
Hmm, hmm.
को नाम देंगे नंबर देंगे उसका इसे
Right.
इसका देन आपकी साइंस जो है वो खोखली होगी
Right.
और आपकी टेक्नोलॉजी डिस्ट्रक्टिव इंट्रिंसिकली so my book is really not about justice inequity and all that it is to draw people's attention unless you are able to not reply when I ask you who's destroying the planet until the day that you don't spontaneously say a culture called civilization you will not find the answer so I've given that explanation and answer in the whole book
Right.
but through a story through two characters
Yeah, yeah, and that's even more interesting because you could perhaps would have written a non-fiction book and then sort of delved in, but instead of doing that, sort of do it through a very gripping story of two people, which is Sonal, who was a fiery activist who is grappling with acute depression, and how she sort of crosses paths with Abhay, who was once a celebrated genetic engineer, and
yes
but
sir.
now he's leading a life in the shadows, hiding from the very establishment he once challenged.
Yes.
And I was wondering that how did you arrive this character, and did you through them want to explore the questions of identity, connection, cultural critique, and how through their eyes we're sort of invited to reevaluate the assumptions that shape our lives and the world around us.
So first of all, I was writing a non-fiction book. I never imagined. So I had worked a lot on the non-fiction. And in that process, I started getting quite frenzied and frustrated and because people wouldn't understand what I was saying. So
Right.
through that frustration, these two characters popped up in my mind. And I wrote the first 11 scenes in one sitting. And they haven't changed up to date. So it was not like I said, Acha, Sonal, kaun hai, ye kya hai, wo. I don't know. It was spontaneous. It is called a awakening. But the point is that Sonal and Abhay are two facets of my character. Abhay was me before because
Right.
I want to know the whole universe. I want to get to the bottom of the atom. I want to know how this happens. I want to know how life works. I want to be able to explain everything. That was fascinating to me. तो हमें बचपन से ये सिखाया गया कि इससे हमको we'll get total knowledge, which is
Right.
a delusion. So that was a part of me. But then when I came to India in 1980, and I was studying in America, and I got into this people's issue, then my awakening was of a different kind. So Sonal and Abhay are both parts of me. I have walked that journey. So it's experiential. It's not I'm making it up. That's why it's so deep. Because I know that this is how it is.
You mentioned, I think, in the acknowledgement section, how the process of writing this book changed you, and during the process also how the different ways that you yourself were changed. And if I was wondering if you could talk about that bit, your own preoccupation with these ideas of especially the two writers that you mentioned who sort of influenced your work. I think one of them is, of course, John Zerzan, and then you also mentioned Masanobu Fukuoka. Um, and I was wondering how sort of how did they sort of influence your own worldview and your understanding of your perception of reality and civilization.
That's right. So actually, the original book which punctured my perception was Masanobu Fukuoka's One Strong Evolution. It's a very simple book. It's a very cheap book. It's a very simply written book. But you know, Naved,
Yes.
uh, when you read a book or when somebody tells you something, one thing, of course, matters how clearly that person is speaking. But the real thing is how you are receiving. जैसे कहते हैं ना अकलमंद के लिए इशारा काफी है.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for me and for a lot of people, because Masanobu is a cult figure in that zone. So indirectly, he was questioning science because he was a plant pathologist in Japan, and he had to figure out why this disease in rice, why this disease. So Abhay's character is loosely molded on Masanobu. That's why I made Abhay a genetic scientist.
Right.
Who then, yeah, that same journey happened to Masanobu also. So when you say how it changed me immediately, because when I see something which makes sense, I accept it, embrace it all the way. I don't say नहीं यार मुझे तो स्कूल में ये सिखाया था और वो था ऐसा वैसा था. It's making sense to me. So then I read deeper. Then I read John Zerzan. Then I read Charles Eisenstein. Then I read Daniel Quinn. Then I read Derek Jensen and primitivism thoughts. And
Yes.
started. Yeah. So I wouldn't say it came from any one source, but the thing that started it, that triggered it, and these guys put it in much more clarity. But I have added my own style of explaining things. But yes, I've learned a lot from them. But at the same time, I've brought something more because my objective is not to write an abstract book so that people think I'm damn great. वो मेरा मकसद नहीं है. My objective is that if I'm communicating a thought, and if I don't do it clearly and simply, and if you don't get it, I have failed. And that is my approach to films also. Yeah.
Right. Right. So, one question about the fact that it can be seen as a very contrarian view and sort of different from the mainstream one. Do you, as a thinker and because it's a very, very deeply philosophical book, do you get these apprehensions of maybe not being understood perhaps, or even though there are telltale signs that tell us that all these issues about ecology and and sustainability and things which have become hot button topics now, which only show us that that we have that our progress is sort of has come under scanner because of what it is. And
Yeah.
so
So I would say that most people are stuck in these issues. But it's not only ecological, it's economic. It's not only economic, it's a science. Every day you're questioning it. Every day, one day you say fossil fuels is good, one day you say plastics is good, one day you say nuclear is good, one day, I go down to the root. If your perception,
yeah,
क्योंकि हाँ, कि अगर आपका perception reality, a dog does not see something as a table and a chair, or an elephant does not see something as a tree and the soil, and he sees it as a continuum. And indigenous people also, तो मेरा उस level का, और philosophy is the wrong word. I hate philosophy.
okay,
Philosophy is love for knowledge.
right,
The literal meaning. Phil means love and Sophie is knowledge.
right,
And we believe that we are more knowledgeable. Civilization is more knowledgeable. And those poor chaps don't have. हमारी knowledge जो है वो boundary knowledge है. Symbolic knowledge है. और इतनी ज्यादा knowledge की आपको जरूरत भी नहीं है. If tomorrow my dog gets to know how the optic is working and how, don't you think it will manipulate? If all the rats in Bombay discovered how to live 3 times longer, would you like it? So we think that हम लोग जो जैसे कि कहते हैं, sorry, not to bring any kind of religion, but because I'm absolutely agnostic, I believe in God. My God is one. कहते हैं अशरफुल मखलूकात. Yeah. कि we are the noblest of the species. ये ताज हमने अपने सर पे खुद डाला है. आप समझे ना?
Yeah.
कि like I go and say Mansoor, the king director. अरे मैं बोल रहा हूँ खुद यार. But ecology does not work that way. There is no up and down. There's no one species that you see. We have been taught a linearity. So it is a deep conditioning. So yes, I am apprehensive that people will. But when somebody asks me, supposing you would have said, Mansoor, you've written a very good book, but I totally disagree with you. I would say, Naved, you don't have to agree with me. You have to agree with reality.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm pointing out to you how reality behaves.
Yeah. Yeah.
है ना? आप कह रहे हैं हमें यार 21 माले की बिल्डिंग है, क्या बात है यार? I don't believe in gravity. You don't have to deal with me. I'm not stopping you. You have to deal now with reality, gravity. So I also believe that this is what I call cultural conditioning. So we are mentally programmed, as you say, and we program those other cultures and make them think like us, almost like cancer cells convince other cells to behave like it. We are a cancer culture. We are a viral culture. इसीलिए तो हमने जैसे एक कैंसर सेल पूरे जिस्म को खा लेता है, हर ऑर्गन को खा लेता है, और उसकी फिलॉसफी बिल्कुल अलग है सारे सेल से. All the other cells know that they have to live for a finite time, take finite resources, stay in the same place. Cancer says, no, I am too smart. I will not die. I will give birth to 2, which will give birth to 4, which will give birth to 8, which is exponential. And when I finish eating up this liver, I'll go to the heart. And that it's an emerging market. For the cancer cell, the heart is an emerging. Don't we use terms like that? एक जगह आपने खा ली, अब आप emerging market ढूंढ रहे हैं. So it is the culture. Indigenous people do not do that. Yeah. So my answer was, you don't have to agree with me. You have to fall in line with reality. आप ना माना करते रहे. I have no problem. I will not argue with you.
Yeah. No, it's I asked because today we have this tendency about all kinds of opinions floating around, and so anyway, let's let's leave it at that. I want to bring you to another aspect of the book. As I mentioned, it's a very compact book, but it has very profound ideas in terms of what it deals with, and this issue about you mentioned somewhere, I think Abhay in fact presents his ideas, and much of what he thinks we get to know through a book that he presents to Sonal, right? And in which he sort of he deliberates on a whole host of issues, and two things about our sort of the history of civilization, and that's linked to that, which is the discovery of fire and then agriculture. And I wanted to ask you about these two aspects. How did these two sort of transformed much of what followed, in the history of civilization, and also you mentioned how they're also at the root of what sort of can be very disastrous for humanity.
Okay, you see, normally we are taught that fire was the first great discovery of man.
Right.
And then we are taught agriculture was the second great discovery of man. Now we are only looking from our point of view. And we are also only looking at what we get when we light a fire. But the fact that fire, and this I learned from Charles Eisenstein's book. I would be mentioning, unfortunately, in this printed book, I did not give my reference since I wish I had, but I've given them credit so people can go up. So in Eisenstein's book, he says कि हमारा perception boundary का boundary होती है, आप मुझे दिखा दीजिए, show me one boundary that exists anywhere. There is no, it's a concept. I'll say this is Naved. I make an imaginary boundary here, but there is no boundary. Your heat is going out, your gravity is going out. I can see you if you were in the same room or across a. So the notion of boundary came from fire. Inside, outside. So I am actually developing how the perception of boundary got into human minds. Yes, at that time it's not civilization. All humans finally fell victim to fire. लेकिन 50,000 years later or 40,000 years later, when some people started doing agriculture, which means, and both of them are control, कि ये चीज मेरे हिसाब से होगी, जहां मैं कह रहा हूं होगी, जितना मैं कहता हूं होगी, और वो मेरी होगी, और उसको कोई और नहीं ले सकता. आप तो खुदा बन गए हैं. अल्लाह मियां ने डिसाइड किया था ना, या भगवान ने, या तो दिस इज नॉट मेंशन एनीवेयर that you are violating all. Now we are talking about diversity. We are talking about, so civilization is such a deluded culture and such a duplicit culture. We find answers grudgingly. We are saying, oh, you know what, organic is nice. But I tell them, but वो तो आदिवासी आपको 5,000 साल पहले बोल रहा था. नहीं, तो उसका ये एक ही ठीक है. या आप ये नहीं देख रहे कि उसका पूरा नजरिया ठीक है. You take what you want and then you create yourself credit. Oh, we've become environmentally friendly. Oh, we've become conservationists, so whatever it is.
Yeah.
So my intention is not about the ecology and this thing that everybody is discussing. That is, those are the side effects. The real effect is if I ask you, do you believe in modern science?
Yes.
You do. And I think that modern science is totally.
Yeah.
I mean, it can predict कि ball की speed क्या होगी ये वो. But that's not the whole universe. I can make a ball move. You know what I mean? So this is called boundary science. कि आप एक boundary बनाते हैं कि I am only interested in the ball, the force and the acceleration. आपने 3 concept जैसे इस दुनिया में और कुछ है ही नहीं. अगर इस force से ये ball इस acceleration से जाएगी, in the real world तो किसी चीज से टकराएगी.
Right.
किसी वो आप नहीं वो no. So this is called compartmentalized boundary science.
Right.
And all our sciences, then we say holistic. There cannot be holistic science with symbols.
Right.
It's a much more, I would rather grudgingly use the word spiritual. Though I don't agree. क्योंकि लोग भी spiritual सोचते हैं कि वो बाबा ये और वो और हाथ में से ash निकल रही है और float कर रहे हैं. Normally people think that is spiritual. Right. My dog is spiritual. Frog in my garden is spiritual. The word spiritual only means non-symbolic.
Yeah.
You trust your senses. Touch, sense, smell, taste, eyesight. That is spiritual.
Right.
And then you follow that. A frog, you use only those 5 or 6 senses. Intuition is also a sense. So it does not create symbol. अच्छा ये मक्खी है. अच्छा मक्खी का ये पर होता है और ये होता है और आप तोड़ लें. आप किसी चीज को तोड़ के नहीं समझ सकते. And that we call analysis. Yeah. We've given them great names, logic, analysis. I've broken down all of them and you can see. Yes. You can see how logic fails. क्योंकि आप logic एक दायरे में apply कर रहे हैं. Right. इस दायरे के बाहर क्या है? I'm not concerned.
Absolutely.
GDP should go up.
Yeah.
और इस GDP को ऊपर ले जाने में या प्रोडक्टिविटी करने में कितना पोल्यूशन होता है, कितने रिसोर्स, that's what we call this? Collateral damage. We are fabulous at inventing terms,
Yeah.
That we say two contrary terms.
Yes.
Green development, green growth.
Green growth, yes.
Growth हम चाह रहे हैं हमेशा हो, that cannot be green.
Right.
When growth happens forever, it's called cancer. And green only means limited growth. आप दो opposite words लाके आपने एक phrase बना दिया, I'm into green growth. What do you mean? It's like saying I'm a loving rapist.
Right.
If I'm loving, I will not rape, and if I'm a rapist, I cannot love.
Yes.
So this is the trick of symbolic thought. This is civilization बहुत ही dangerous, deluded और viral culture है. ये मैं लोगों को जगाना चाह रहा हूँ.
Right.
And I'm part of it. I'm not saying no, you're also. I am. But that doesn't mean that if I light a cigarette and say, Naved, cigarette smoking is bad. So you'll say, Arey yaar, Mansoor, you're smoking a cigarette. I said, okay, I throw away the cigarette. Cigarette smoking is bad. Haan, ab theek hai. How did it? This is civilization. So you know,
Right,
जो आप कहते हैं ना लोग raise, we love to have this thing in an argument. We agree to disagree.
right, right. I
अब
think
we
that
agree
is
to disagree में सिर्फ आप और मैं involved हैं.
right, right, right.
सारी reality तो involved नहीं है, वो agree
नहीं,
नहीं कर रही.
absolutely.
And when you say win-win situation,
Hmm.
it is the corporate and this thing financial that are getting a win-win. और बाकी सब दुनिया जो है ना उनको आप चूसेंगे.
Right.
तो win-win सिर्फ इन दोनों के लिए है.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's not a win-win situation. It cannot be.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Two questions about and they may be related here perhaps about boundaries and how that is something that also resonates with the times we are living in, that we are so fond of drawing these lines everywhere and putting sort of pigeonholing people in some sense, while it may not be directly related to what you deal with the book. But I was just curious to know what would you say to this whole notion of bracketing people, and how that leads to a lot of chaos in the times that we are living in.
So there are two kinds of boundaries. One is physical boundaries, जैसे कि आप कहते हैं India, Pakistan, या
Right.
Gujarat, Maharashtra. You see, I don't mean those kind of boundaries. I'm talking about the conceptual boundaries. So I think in a way you are also saying कि ये लोग इस type के हैं.
Right.
Yeah. So, खैर, even the tribal people, even the lion does not think he's a tiger.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there is a kind of a fuzzy boundary. जैसे हम लोग कहते हैं, the concept of property
Yes.
is this. But tigers don't have property; they have territory. Territory और property में बहुत फर्क है.
Yeah.
आप कहते हैं ये मेरी property है और जो होगा मेरे हिसाब से होगा. You understand? So when we are talking about these other distinctions that in civilization we are making between, whether it be caste system or whether it be nationality or whether it be sexuality or या जो भी है, क्योंकि हम लोग इस boundary culture इतना है और हम लोग इतना that our other thinking creates. Yes, of course we are different.
Right.
Yes, I do accept. Supposing you're a Muslim and I'm, let's say, an agnostic or a Hindu or whatever. I mean, I acknowledge that there's a difference. But the repercussions of symbolic thinking, आप उसके फायदे ढूंढते हैं. तो आपका उस इकोनॉमिक्स उस पर डिपेंडेंट है कि उन लोगों को काटो हम लोग को मिलेगा. ये कल्चर्स में नहीं होता है. So just acknowledging that there's a difference is not a problem. A cat recognizes a dog is different.
Yeah.
But the cat does not exploit the dog. तो ये boundary बुरा word हो गया इस तरह से. But I don't think boundary is a bad word.
Right. Okay.
A hardcore imaginary boundary.
That could be.
Yeah. There is no boundary actually.
Yeah.
It's all connected. और फिर civilization ने अद्वैत क्यों लिखी? आप कहते हैं क्या? This is Advait. There is no second. There is no other. It's all one. आप समझे? But we will recognize this is the duplicity of civilization. हम इतने grand culture हैं, इतने advanced culture हैं कि हमने अद्वैत लिखी. So I tell those people, you know what?
Yeah.
An Adivasi doesn't need to write Advait. He's living in Advait.
Right.
जो आदमी को मालूम है सच और झूठ के डिफरेंस में, वो सच के ऊपर किताब लिखे. और जो आदमी जिसको सच और झूठ के बीच में डिफरेंस नहीं मालूम है,
Right.
what do you mean? What do you mean you are very honest? You know what I mean? And where does that come from? Such झूठ boundary.
Yeah.
Dualistic thinking. Good, bad, black, white, strong, weak. That's why we have lectures in colleges and we have courses in colleges on this kind of thing, and we discuss duality. And फिर आप उसको एक और औहदा दे देते हैं. Your whole college is dualistic here. आपकी पूरी साइंस जो आप सिखा रहे हैं dualistic. आपके law, economics, everything is dualistic because you believe in symbols. तो बहुत खतरनाक subject है. But to me, I'm saying this is reality. This is the truth. You face it.
You also have, bits about, malnutrition, poverty, and this whole idea and debate about that. Civilization began as a way to improve people's lives in a way, and also to, sort of end these problems like poverty and malnutrition.
That's a myth. That's a myth.
Yeah.
ये झूठ है, ये झूठ है, या
But
ये आपको झूठ सिखाया गया है, आप समझे उनके
right,
हिसाब से. And I studied anthropology and I keep following it. I keep the bones that these guys discover pre-civilization
right.
are healthier, they are stronger. There was no tooth decay. और जहां से civilization शुरू हुआ, जहां से agriculture शुरू हुआ, वहां से tooth decay शुरू हुआ, वहां से you know unhealthy bones, weak bones, malnutrition. It is the opposite.
Mm.
Agriculture is in fact not growing food for everybody. It is only taking it for yourself. तो एक तो आप सॉइल को डिप्लीट करते हैं, वन वे टेक करते हैं, वहां से सारी चीजें निकाल देते हैं, और ऊपर से आप ज्यादा खाना उगाते हैं जिससे आपकी पॉपुलेशन बढ़ती है. लोग सोचते हैं पॉपुलेशन बढ़ती है तो हम खाना उगाते हैं, नहीं, उल्टा है. आप अपने घर में ट्राई कर लीजिए आज रात से. प्लीज थ्रो, द मोर शुगर यू थ्रो द मोर एंड्स देयर विल बी. And why do we say don't feed the monkeys?
Right.
Because you're artificially giving them food, their population will go up.
Yeah.
And they'll forget how to. So one thing is they'll forget how to hunt or gather food themselves. Second thing is population is correlated to food. ये जो पूरा population graph आप देख रहे हैं ना, जो हम लोग कहते हैं, you know, Mansoor, population is the problem. पर आप हिस्ट्री देख लीजिए पॉपुलेशन की, जो मैंने ग्राफ भी दिया है मेरी पहली किताब में. जहां से आपने एक्चुअली एग्रीकल्चर तो यहाँ शुरू हुआ था, पर जहां से आपने उसको इंटेंसिफाई किया, पहले बैल हल ये वो तो माइनर था. जब आपका हाथ में एनर्जी फॉसिल फ्यूल्स आया, कोल आया, तो आपने तगड़े पैमाने पे एग्रीकल्चर करना शुरू किया, और वहां से धता ऊपर जाना. सो एवरीबॉडीज कॉन्सेप्ट, Naved, I am telling you and all your readers, everything you've been taught is wrong. Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Right.
So that
it does. One does get that sense after reading your book, as if everything has been or not, basically all these studies.
and I'm not saying, yeah, and I'm not saying that there is a bad guy. My book is not moral. Both my books are not moral. I'm not saying that it's like we love to say, oh, this is all about America. It's all about capitalism. बल्कि हम लोग, अगर आप किसी से पूछे कि यार दुनिया क्यों बर्बाद हो रही है, अरे support is capitalists. अच्छा, and not you. You put your money in FD and want 7% return. You also say this government. I'm saying a part of it.
Some of these, yeah. No, sorry, please finish. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that if I'm not being moralistic, it's an examination into truth. Now, Gandhi had also written a book called My Experiments with Truth.
Yeah.
But personally, without offending anyone, I feel that Gandhi's exploration of truth was more the moral truth, the morality, you know, the moral. You know. Whereas I am not looking at morality at all.
Right.
I am saying, that's why I don't give it the word truth. Because truth is a loaded word. I say reality. असलियत किस तरह से बिहेव करती है, you know, तो वो डिफाइन करेगी कि आपको उसके साथ, जैसे a river, how does it behave? And a fish has to recognize river behaves like this and flow with it. Have you ever seen a fish trying to change the river?
No.
No. नहीं, दुनिया अल्लाह मियां ने ठीक नहीं बनाई थी, हम उसको इम्प्रूव करेंगे. अरे आप तो कह रहे हैं अल्लाह मियां is the strongest thing, भगवान is the strongest thing. You know, I don't like to go into this because nowadays everybody, but I'm just saying, isn't it funny?
Yeah.
That we feel that God did something incomplete and wrong. This whole idea of progress. You know, we feel कि हाँ, that day when we discovered writing and this thing, वहां से हमने सारा ठीक करना शुरू किया. Actually आपने सारा बिगाड़ना शुरू किया. वो आपकी नजरों में अच्छा हो रहा है, लेकिन जो बाकी स्पीशीज है उनके लिए तो बुरा ही हो रहा है ना. जो अमीर लोग होते हैं शहर में या कंट्री में, कहते देखो क्या प्रोग्रेस हम कर रहे हैं, देखो कितना हमने जीडीपी, वो जीडीपी आपको जा रहा है. When the poverty level is going, you know, it's not a moral subject. I'm trying to explain to you the dynamics of it in anything.
Right.
Science has proved this. Acha? Science has proved this, but I know that a dog catches a ball without knowing calculus. Yeah? आप एक बॉल ऐसे फेंकिए वो पकड़ लेगा, तो कैलकुलस नहीं मालूम. A bird flies without knowing about gravity or the principles of flight, but it flies more efficiently than any plane. So, you know, these are all. Tell me.
Delusion. Everything is a delusion then, right?
Everything is not a delusion. Everything is a delusion in civilization.
All right. Okay.
There is no delusion in real life.
All right. Okay.
It's all real.
Civilization is deluding us then. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's say that way.
वो लोग जो कहते हैं ना reality is a delusion. I don't believe in that nonsense.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely don't believe that. That's philosophy. That is philosophy.
Right. Right. Let me take you back to your previous book, and that was 10 years ago, 2013, when the third curve came. And again, that was in some sense revolutionary because you talk about how we are just as you talk about how we are deluded about civilization in this one. You wrote how we were deluded about things like money and growth and how it's not the money that makes the world go round, but energy in some sense.
Absolutely.
Would you like to talk a bit about that book?
I mean, you can say that book is a slice of this.
Right.
This book is the full thing. Money is a concept. Boundary is a concept. Symbol is a concept. Money is a symbol. It has no value, intrinsic value, but symbols allow you to manipulate the real world. But आप कितना मैनिपुलेट करते हैं रियल वर्ल्ड को, हम लोग बहक गए. हम लोग पूछते हैं ना कि नवे तुम कितना कैपिटल लोगे, तो तुम पूछो, I say 10,000 crores. Yeah, sure, you have 10,000 crores. Just because you give me 10,000 crores of capital doesn't mean that many resources have appeared out of nowhere. You see what I mean? So that book is actually a sliver of book. And it's really, the actual subject of the book is this religion, much bigger than Islam, Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism. आप दुनिया की सारी religions ले लें, dogmatic. उनसे बड़ी जो religion है ना, is the religion of growth. तो एक हिंदू और मुस्लिम लड़ेंगे अलग चीजों पे, पर growth पे वो हाथ जोड़ लेंगे. या growth तो होना चाहिए. Growth is a aberration. जब हमारी बॉडी में ऐसा ग्रोथ होता है, हम उसको कैंसर बोलते हैं. आप समझे? जब हम बाहर करते हैं, हम उसको प्रोग्रेस बोलते हैं. तो ये आपने अच्छा वर्ड, what's called euphemism. This is progress. This is not cancer. और आपके rivers dry हो रहे हैं, forests जा रहे हैं, that is the cancer. So nobody is seeing the environmental collapse as the cancer in direct what should I say, reaction or effect of a crazy economic financial model. The impossible model. So that is what that first book was about.
So in a larger sense, then, in our quest to develop and grow, we are, growing apart from, we are getting further and further from actual growth. And nature also in some sense.
Actual growth, see what I'm saying, growth ko kehte hain ki growth is a good word, but in some context is good. No. Is your heart growing every year?
No.
Is it pumping more blood every year? Is your kidney? ये idea of linearity, बल्कि मैंने explain किया, आपने time को linear कर दिया. Time is not seconds. Time is what I'm feeling talking to you. It's a feeling. It's the experience of living. It's a quality. But जहाँ आपने time को seconds कर दिया और productivity को उससे attach कर दिया, then you give it time value of money. तो ये सब आपने थोपा है reality.
Right.
आपने कहा हम लोग इतने अक्लमंद हैं, हम लोग इतने वो हैं. Development का क्या मतलब होता है?
Right.
And that also in my chapter, the Sonal's character explains to the children. Yes. Development means more, bigger, better. And evolution is adaptation to development. Keeps only a few things in mind, and it cannot. That's why you have to constantly have this conflict. यार ये environmentalists बहुत तंग करे, हमारी country कैसे develop करेगी? हमको because there is a contradiction involved. Development is a thing that you are saying. How will I get richer? I'll say, Naveen, जब तक मैं चोरी नहीं करूंगा और short deals नहीं करूंगा. अरे किसने कहा था कि I have to become a Amir every day? Yeah?
Yeah.
So yeah, artificial targets, artificial, progress, development, all these efficiency. The heart is not becoming more efficient. ये सब industrial terms हैं, ये symbolic terms.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to
So,
wipe out. You have to wipe out the slate and
right.
start. And that the easy thing is, आप कहेंगे अरे यार बहुत मुश्किल है. मैं बोलूँगा जाइए, 2-3 साल रहिए. जैसे मैंने थोड़ा वक्त गुजारा बाइडेन, जाके रहिए जंगल में एक आदिवासी के साथ, आपको सब समझ आ जाएगा.
Absolutely. So
Yep.
let me bring in technology here. A lot of things that are happening today also shaped and reshaped and sort of transformed by technology. And Abhay is a genetic engineer, of course, and we have seen how this corporate-led sort of control of the food, for instance, is sort of creating this divide between, and it's a gulf now that those who can afford basic amenities in life, and by that I mean, of course, primary things like food, um, and those who, and how it's sort of also affecting us. I mean, even if we think that we are rich and we can, afford some really, really super food, but how it's actually screwing our system. Is it something that you would like to talk about?
No, so right now you are people love splitting hairs. This is
Right.
खासियत है civilization की. कि इस वक्त हम we are talking anti GMO या ये thinking common है. चाहे आप एक टावल बना रहे हो, चाहे आप एक मैं तो टावल बनाता हूँ, सबको टावल की जरूरत है. मैं तो जूते बनाता हूँ, तो सबको जूते की जरूरत है. तो आप समझे ना, मैं तो खाना बना रहा हूँ. तो मगर मैं उसको नहीं देखता. और सबसे पहले आपने बहुत टेक्नोलॉजी से शुरू किया था, तो मैं बोल रहा हूँ टेक्नोलॉजी. यू रिमेम्बर माय सर्कल ऑफ 5 steps.
Yes, yes.
The reality you perceive, then you understand it, and we call that science.
Yeah.
Science is not जो हमको सिखाई जाती है 8 + b = c and 1 2 3 4 and square root of this. वो boundary science है. So even a frog has a science. Science only means understanding. So similarly, technology only means application. So you mean to tell me a frog does not apply its understanding of reality? वो उसकी technology, but वो symbiotic है. उससे कभी कोई खतरा नहीं हो सकता. आप कोई भी टेक्नोलॉजी ले लें, so it's not only GMO, it's not only plastics, it's not only neon, it's freon या जो भी है.
Right.
That technology is intrinsically doomed. एक आदमी अपने करियर शुरू करता है पिक पॉकेट बन के, फिर वो उसको एक साइंस बना देता है. फिर पर उसकी टेक्नोलॉजी और साइंस जो है वो intrinsically द्वैत होंगे. So now I'm coming back. Is द्वैत. It is at the cost of something else. It may appear fascinating to you because you're on this side. The rest of reality doesn't only loses them and it hits you back. COVID is a hit back, like many other things. Malaria is a hit back.
Yeah.
Cancer, hypertension, diabetes. None of these diseases are there in the indigenous cultures. How are the Sentinelese surviving for 60,000 years on an island? 60,000 is 6 times the duration of civilization without Hindu hospital. How? Without penicillin, without antibiotics. Because we needed this once we violated that.
Yes.
फिर आपको जब आपने पूरा दुनिया का पानी खराब किया, then you started bottled water. Is bottled water an advancement? Is it a sign of progress or it is a sign of desperation? So, your lens will change, Naved. यही सवाल आपके दिमाग में आएगा 1-2 दिन या तो आप खुद ही उसका जवाब ढूंढ पाएंगे, क्योंकि my words will echo in your head and say, oh yeah. आप सवाल पूछते ही आपको अपने दिमाग में. So it's not like I have to force you, and that's why in this stupid culture called civilization, we have so many gurus who teach you the right way and to find happiness. I'm not seen a dog guru. I'm not seen an elephant guru. They know how to be happy. They all. तो आप जितना खोदेंगे ना इस पर्सपेक्टिव से, the perspective of boundaries and तो तब आपको दिखेगा कि that's why Aaamir is, he might be my cousin, but he doesn't give a blurb or anything of something he doesn't like. And secondly, have you read his blurb?
Yeah. It's there, the
Yeah,
gem of the book, which first challenged my mind and then blew it apart.
correct.
Yeah.
तो क्योंकि वो I believe in the receiver. मैं खड़ा होकर कहीं भी I can have lots of grains of rice in my hand, or and I'm sowing. I can sow, but the soil has to receive. If the soil is not receptive to that, कुछ नहीं आएगा. तो जब तक किसी का दिमाग रिसेप्टिव ना हो, मैं नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि क्यों मैं बोल रहा हूँ या ये वो, आप देख लीजिए, आप इसको you can what I say experience this. So yeah, that's right, yeah. It is. चांद पे हम जा रहे हैं, मार्स ढूंढ रहे हैं अभी. वही तो मेंटालिटी थी यूरोपियन कॉन्करर्स की. पहले हमने यूरोप बर्बाद कर दिया, खाना खत्म, पानी खत्म, पॉवर्टी जाएगा. हम लोग अभी डिस्कवरर्स बन के, आप नई दुनिया, हमने उनको ग्लोरीफाई किया कि ये एक्सप्लोरर्स थे, लुटेरे थे. So that mentality is the mentality of civilization. Civilization always finishes its own. It's intrinsically an unsustainable culture. जब आप एग्रीकल्चर करते हैं तो वो सॉइल डिप्लीट और वाटर डिप्लीट और फॉरेस्ट डजंट वर्क दैट वे. और जब आप उसको बर्बाद कर देते हैं तो आप एक आर्मी तैयार रखते हैं, which is where the whole concept of army is, kings, bishop. Then you say the king. अब आपने मुझे किंग बनाया, मुझे तो बहुत मजे, मैं लूट रहा हूँ किंग बनने के तरह. नहीं, don't worry, I will find something, I will invade. I used to wonder our history which we are taught in school के फिर इसने उसको इन्वेट किया, फिर उसने उसको इन्वेट किया, फिर इसको मार डाला, और आप सेलिब्रेट करें कि जो जीत गया उसको आप सेलिब्रेट कर रहे हैं. पर आप ये नहीं पूछ रहे कि अच्छा सबसे पहले ये लोग इतना इधर उधर क्यों जा रहे हैं. So we are an unsustainable culture and totally out of sync with reality.
Right. You have been, lucky enough in some sense that you have been away from the depredations of city life, and because there are too many ravages, how it sort of has an impact on you. It has been nearly 2 decades that you have been living in Kunur, where you have an organic farm and where you sort of acres wild and where you sort of make cheese and bake bread. And I was just curious to know how that life has sort of influenced in some way or has an impact on, your preoccupations as a thinker and writer, if you could talk about it.
So all these thoughts, all these feelings were there before I left Bombay. तो ये नहीं कि अगर आप एवरेस्ट पे जाके जो बोलते हैं ना, ऊपर मैं जाके बैठ गया, बुद्धा को वहीं अकल आई. मैं कह रहा हूँ बुद्धा को ऊपर जाके कहीं बैठने की जरूरत नहीं थी. You can get realization. People say, oh Mansoor, you are lucky, yeah. You could pull away. So that's why you think like, अरे मैं बोल रहा हूँ, मैंने सब बॉम्बे में सोचा. I was under immense mental stress. The thing that Sonal is going through in the thing, I went through that. I went through therapy. तो ये बात नहीं है. हाँ, Kunur gave me peace to live as I want. I'm not a city person, so there's nothing against Bombay or London or Delhi or Chennai. I'm not an urban person. आप मुझे कोई भी नॉन अर्बन जगह दे दें जो शायद कुनूर जैसे खूबसूरत ना भी हो, एक ब्राउन फील्ड है और उधर रॉक्स है, even that is more. So that was for my peace of mind. That did not open my mind or change my perspective.
That is who you were basically, and that's
what I became. That's what I became in 1998, 99, because of that land thing.
Land. And was it in Alibag? Alibag, right?
Yeah, Manwa, yeah.
Yeah. So one last question. I mean, when we talk to you, we cannot not talk about cinema, and and I was thinking that it has been so much water has flown under the bridge, and I was wondering if is it something that you sort of, when you look back, do you sort of miss that, or do you sort of feel this need to be be sort of somehow follow what is happening in cinema today?
So first of all, everybody has a wrong impression, but I've clarified in innumerable interviews.
Right.
Okay, first of all, I am not a cinema lover. I was not interested in making films. I was always interested in running away from the city. But because at that time I felt if I run away, I look irresponsible. So I was trying to prove that I can be responsible. That's the only reason why I made films. And that reflects in Jojita. A boy who's careless, irresponsible, learns what it takes to be responsible. Jojita is not about a cycle race. It's not about winning a cycle race. It's about learning responsibility and hard work. तो एक्चुअली वो था और मेरी चारों फिल्म में बैकग्राउंड में यही चलता रहता था कहाँ मैं जाऊंगा कहाँ एक जमीन भी मिल गई थी जो मांडवा में जाने वाली थी एंड टू मी दैट वाज माय ड्रीम लैंड एंड ऑल एनीवे लाइफ टेक्स इट्स ओन कोर्स you can want anything at any time and same with this book I might want that instantly people buy it and read it and understand it but reality has its own plans वो जब होगा तब होगा I believe in destiny So it was no great thing for me to leave cinema again and I have no desire to come back.
But this sense of disillusionment towards a lot of things in life, did you always have that? Or?
No, it's not disillusionment, it's clarity.
Okay.
I got clarity.
Yeah, actually. Right. Right. I'm sorry for using that word, but yeah.
No, they use all our words ulta. Mansoor, why did you run away from Bombay? I say, no, I didn't run away from Bombay. I ran towards Pune.
Yeah, of course.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
वो एक नेगेटिव इम्प्लीकेशन है अगर आपके लिए बॉम्बे इज वर्किंग आई एम नॉट कर्सिंग बॉम्बे आई एम नॉट सेइंग यार इस पे एक एटम बम गिराओ यार खत्म करो इसको आपको अच्छा लगता है आपको यहाँ रहना आप रहिए
On that note, thank you so much, Mr. Khan. It was lovely talking to you. Again, all the best for this book. I'm sure it's going to find readers everywhere, and it's a necessary book. It's a book that really shines light on and questions, as I said, critiques and questions civilization, and makes us think deeply about a lot of things about the world we live in and where we are headed. So thank you so much. It was really lovely talking to you.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.